Hi there! In this video I will show you how to put together the Christmas Presents Truck card, which is a box card from Simply Crafty SVGs. And I usually just jump right in. There's a couple little elements here that we have to piece together. So you can see I've already pieced together that one present. So we're going to piece together the presents as we put them on the inserts of the cards. So this is a card that flattens to send in an envelope, but opens to display. So it's they're kind of cool cards. So whenever you send it to somebody or give it to somebody, they'll be able to display it. So I like to put it directly on the insert. So two of the presents go on the insert. So we can just place them where they need to go. So I'm using art glitter glue. So you can see I placed the big present portion first and made sure that it was aligned with the shapes on the insert. And then we'll do the same, adding light amounts of glue because you don't want it to leak. So I'm just taking the excess off and wiping my finger on a wet paper towel that I always have handy. And I'm just going to carefully line it up so those top ribbon pieces line up. And this is just to enable you to make the card like you see. So it places everything there for you. So two of the presents that we're piecing together, as you can see, go on the insert. And then the third one will glue to the back of the front of the actual card. So when I glue the big piece, I'm just making sure that it's aligned to the shape in the back. And we just don't want the red showing through, or if it's around the edges, it's not a big deal. Also with this particular SVG file or design, we have some blank, actually just one blank insert. So if you just wanted to make your own insert, so there's two inserts, one with the tree and the presents. If you wanted to do your own, you could just use the blank inserts. So I only have one, but you can just duplicate it. So here I just added the glue on the actual ribbon, on the actual insert portion. So if I dropped it, I wouldn't get the glue on the actual body of the present. Metallic paper is kind of hard to work with. So this is kind of a shimmery metallic. You see that's the two presents. Now we'll get the insert for the tree. So I did ink it on the edge, so to hide the green a little bit, give it more contrast. But before we glue that big piece of the tree, we're just going to add that little trunk. It's really not extremely necessary, but if they could see inside the card, it gives it the full effect. And also you could use this tree for other purposes, for maybe another project. So you can go ahead and add glue on the back of the large green piece and the trunk, or you can do it just carefully this way. I like to put it on the item I'm going to glue to, if possible, because then sometimes I drop things with glue and then the glue gets everywhere. So it's the reason I do that when I can. So I'm just trying to make sure that it's matched up to the back shape, so we don't see the least amount of the insert portion. I had a little bit of glue there, so there's a little wet paper towel that I use, and that will dry, so I'm not too worried about it. Then we'll go ahead and just layer the additional pieces. So we'll take the next largest piece and line it up. So we're just getting a little bit of dimension by having the little layers for the tree. Then we'll add that top piece and the star. And I did use a metallic cardstock for the star, but I actually added some diamond ranger stickles to the star to give it a little extra bling, little glitter look. Because it's the same gold that I used on the presents for the bows. I couldn't think of the word. but I didn't put stickles on those. It had enough bling. So I just want to apply a lot of pressure to it, make sure it sticks. Then we want to fold back the inserts for the tree. We want to make sure those folds are good and crisp to get ready for when we assemble the card. So the same thing, we want to fold back the presents tab. I'll put that aside. And we want to, once we fold it back, we want to fold it up. And that's because we'll have the tabs facing towards the front of the card and give it a good crease. So we can put those aside. Now we'll start assembling the actual card. So everything's easier if you can put something on like any panels or anything when it's flat. So let's go ahead and first fold it on the scores. Then we're going to add what we can while it's flat. And it's just, I'm going to take out some of these pieces here. My little mirrors were getting stuck in there. So I have the tires and the mirror pieces. So we're going to go ahead and first attach the little panels. So I'm just getting my glue and my little pick-me-up tool. And I like to fold it first because it helps me figure out or visually see where the folds are, so I can place and center panels like this. So I just embossed this little panel a little bit. You could actually use pattern paper. I mean, the actual file comes, will show the same color for the truck, the entire truck in these little panel pieces, but you could ungroup and make these a different color if you'd like. I just like the look of embossed, and it's more of a classic red truck, Christmas truck look. So now these are a little square. These are the tires. We're going to have a front panel that covers this, the top piece. So I'm just going to eyeball where I should put the glue, and then we're going to just place them in there. We just want to line up the sides and the bottom. Make sure it's lined up. I like to flip it over so I can see and double check before it secures. You know, before the glue dries, you can move it just a little bit. So again, I'm just not applying pressure until I know it's in place. And we're going to add the little mirrors. So the squared out piece goes, the flat piece should face to the outside. So when you're placing them, see this one, and it's more rounded on the bottom. So if you get them mixed up, you can kind of dry place them to make sure they're the way you want before you put them on. And you can see I'm just placing them. And I'm just using my pick-me-up tool to kind of move it around. And there was a little goo on the end of the pick-me-up stick that got onto the metallic. So sometimes I have a difficulty work with metallic paper just because of that, but hey, we work with it. So now you're going to see how this goes together here. So this is the tab's going to glue to the inside or the front. So we're flipping it over. So the texture side's down, and you can make sure that the panel's up. We're going to go ahead and add glue to this side tab. So you can see that, again, you want to see that panel's up, and then texture side's down with the mirrors. And then we're lining up that edge, right edge of that back panel to the tab fold. Or slightly to the left. Try to line it up best you can, and then apply pressure. I like to make sure it's good and dry and secure before I move on to the next step. And you'll see that's how that will glue together. But we want to put in the inserts first. So I started putting the inserts in this way, and it seems to line them up pretty well. So I'm just continuing this method. I know we're out of focus a little bit, but this is how we want to put this in. So this is going to be towards the front. You see how those tabs are facing forward? So here's my little trick here. Make sure you have it situated correctly. You see how that tab is towards that front left edge? So we're going to glue that tab a little bit to the right of that fold. You can line it up exactly, but I'd say just a smidgen to the right of it. So that edge of the tab, you see where the fold is, you can almost see it. We're going to line it up on top and bottom, make sure it's lined up, and then once it's in place, I kind of wiggle around to make sure I'm in place and then apply pressure. So the way we want to do this, you see right now, see how that's going to go like that? I'm just kind of folding it over so it folds right. So the way that's going to do, you see I just kind of flatten that out and fold that over. So that just make sure it's not folded on the left, that other tab on the left there, just flat. Then we're going to add glue just to the tab portion, to the left of the tab fold. And what's nice about this method is that I just fold over. There's no reaching in anymore. I'm trying not to do that anymore. I think this is a better method, mostly. I'm going to fold it over, make sure I just did a minor adjustment. And when I fold it over, it glues that tab. So just take a moment because I don't want to fold it again. So you can see it's in there and you can see that it's secure. So we're going to do the same method for the back one. The only difference is the tabs are going to face towards the back. But same general method. It's going to go there like that. So we want the tree facing the front, so we're going to see the back of it. And we want to line that edge up to the left of that fold in the back. So here you go, we're lining it up to the left of that back fold. So we're gluing it to the side. And we're making sure that it's aligned to the top and bottom at the same time. And you see that it's going to glue on that side. So we want to give it a second, make sure it's good and secure before we do this. Okay, so this is a little bit different. It's just going to lift a little bit. We see we folded the tab in down like that, and you don't have much space to work with, but I just want you to see that it's folded down. So that's why I'm moving it around so I can see if I can show you. So right there, we want to add, and you could do this, reach in, you just can't see it, but I'm adding glue to the tab. I'm going to angle it so you can see it. And then the same thing, all you're going to do is just now gently press down. If you have to adjust it up and down a little bit, that's fine, but you can see at the same time we're making sure that it flattens okay. And you want to, with this last one, just make sure that you spend a little time to apply pressure, make sure it's nice and secure, and you see it's in there. And the spacing's the spacing we want. So all you have to do is now close it. So you see we're just going to fold it over and add glue to this tab. So once I got this technique down as far as how to add inserts a little bit differently, I like it, but if you want to use the old method, which is basically put together the shell of the box and then put the inserts in, if you're a person that does a lot of box cards, you'll know what I'm talking about. You could also do it that way. So now that we've got that together, we can add the final pieces to it. I don't like to add the front because it's shaped. So it's just easier to do that last. So first we want to just layer it. So you could, we can put we're going to put the bumper on it. But what you could do is use that back piece for a sentiment as well. But I ended up putting a sentiment on that back piece, but you could use that. But you want to go ahead and line that up. And it does line up. I just didn't, I didn't get it exactly center for this one. And the same thing, I was a little bit off kilter, but try to center this, but the rounded piece is on the bottom. So make sure the slight rounded area is on the bottom. And you can go ahead and center it. And you could always put the lights first on the left and right if you want to make sure it's centered. I didn't do that. That probably would have helped. So I'm just going to cut a piece of this Scotch foam tape to put on the back of this so I can pop it up a little bit for dimension. And then center it. Again, I was a little bit off when I did this, but to me, crafts are crafts. It's all handmade and nothing in crafting is perfect, so most people wouldn't even notice it. Just do your best to center it. And then you can see you have space to put the little lights on the left and right, whether you use the cutouts that come with the card or other dimensional things like enamel dots or something like that. So you'll notice here when we put this panel, it doesn't match up completely. So those top edges will not match up to the top portion on the front of this box card. I hope I'm making sense. We're going to have a little overhang on both sides. So when you add, we're going to add glue on this, and so when you place it, you just want to make sure you have an overhang, the same amount of overhang on both sides, and just line it up to the top. So it goes beyond that, it hangs over the front panel, and that's why we're putting this on last. So again, this is just centering it, and then we'll put the present back there, but we could have sandwiched it in, but I wasn't ready for that. So we'll just put it like that after we get that nice and secure. Actually, it's dried. So we'll just add a little line of glue to the bottom of that present and place it in between the two other presents on the back of that front panel. Just gives it another layer of dimension, and then it always helps to flatten it to apply pressure. Then we just need to add these lights, and I used a Ranger clear glossy accents to get that shine on it. It's a technique. It just takes a while to dry, so I did that first. And you could use something like gemstones, little gemstones, or enamel dots or something like that. So that essentially finishes the card. So we'll move on to the envelope. So for the envelope, there's two pieces, a liner and the actual envelope. So we want to go ahead and fold it on the score lines as shown. Make sure you get a good crisp edge, unless your cutter cuts, it does a kiss cut like mine. So I'm just making sure. And once it's folded, we can go ahead and add that liner. If you are using a thick cardstock for the liner, make sure you get a really crisp edge, because it's going to make the envelope thicker and harder to close. So the biggest thing is you want to line up that fold on the liner to the fold on the envelope, but that's pretty critical. So now I'm just adding a little glue around the little cutout tree. So I'm just adding glue on here and on the actual liner that I want to show through. I want to just be careful that I don't add glue on this piece that could be seen through that tree. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it. And then center it between those. You see how it's kind of centers here? Center it, make sure it's sitting in that fold. And don't apply pressure quite yet until you get making sure it's sitting in that fold. And that's why we're doing it this way first. And we're flattening it because it could buckle at that fold if it's really thick. So if you're using a regular paper like a Christmas paper, a scrapbooking paper that doesn't have thickness like cardstock, it would be easier. I just happen to be using cardstock. Then we'll just flip it the other side over and add glue. You get that adhered. I'm just being careful with the amount of glue because you don't want it to show through the back side of the envelope. And again, I just did it lightly and then applied pressure, and I'm just trying to make sure that I have no buckling at that top part with the layers. And then with just like most envelopes, if you put envelopes together, you put the two flaps in and then that glue the bottom flap up. So I'd like to make a note of where I need to place the glue. So I'm just going to put a little dot at the top using my glue to show me where the top part is. And if you need to, you may need to get those edges again, but it kind of tells me where it is. And then I can apply glue to just making sure that I don't go outside the area that needs to be glued, so there's no glue on the outside. So what I do is I put a little glue on the two flaps and then I add a little glue to the edge of that bottom piece, so I know I'll get glue coverage. That's just eyeballing it. Sometimes I get it wrong and I just have to remove a little glue. Biggest thing is just not getting glue on the inside because you don't want to glue it shut. So once you apply pressure, get that all glued together, you'll have this envelope that you can flatten the card. And I would make sure that you insert it with your hand on the bulk of the design. So not the top of the truck like that. It's not very strong. And there's a panel on the back. I forgot to tell you that. There's a panel on the back of the card. That's it. So it closes and you can secure it to send it or give it to somebody. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and remember, you can customize it with other inserts. Thank you so much for watching.